it was funny. I do physical therapy for the team now, and so I get to work with all of our guys when they're hurt and be around them a lot during boot camp. I'm working with El Marco a lot right now, and I was standing next to El Marco at boot camp, and coach looked over and he said, guys, we don't even have our most athletic player on the court right now. And afterwards, I go, El Marco, he was pointing at me, right?
Of course he was. I still remember one of my favorite memories of you was just watching the pregame warm-ups for the Final Four and just doing the dunk lines you guys were doing, because everybody's like, oh my gosh, Tyrel Reed's out here as a freshman just throwing it down in warm-ups out here. And then, of course, we saw that periodically throughout your career.
Yeah, I was unfortunately really good in warm-ups and needed to be better in the games at showing my athleticism. But
it was good, y'all. It's your boy JD6 here with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man. What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the KC Sports Authority podcast. Keegan Russell, JB Merker here with you tonight, and we've got a special guest joining us for this one, former KU basketball player and local Lawrence resident, because you just can't get enough of this city and this program. He's stuck around this whole time. Tyrel Reed. Tyrel, man, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you hopping on with us. So we wanted to get you on here as a former player, not only to talk about some of your time here at Kansas, but to get your perspective as a guy that goes to a lot of games. You obviously get a lot of interaction with the squad and still around the team. But let's just start, man. What are some takeaways you had from this opening night game? KU obviously big time win at home on opening night. It's something we're accustomed to here. We saw a little bit of everybody on the roster play, but just any opening thoughts from that first game?
Oh, I thought we looked great. I mean, coming from our, exhibition against Arkansas, I think we've made some good strides, moving the right direction. And, it was obviously excellent to play well enough that we could play a lot of different a lot of different matchups and different looks with guys out there. So, excited that we get a big matchup against UNC early in the season.
Yeah, that'll be one of the biggest home games in Allen Fieldhouse history. And there's been a lot of some big time top 10 matchups and just rivalry matchups. I know, unfortunately, you missed that Missouri game by 1 year, but I know you've played a bunch of big games. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. But as you look at the squad, you've got a guy like yourself and Zeke Mayo, a hometown kid for us here from Lawrence. Take me through a little bit of what you think what's going through his mindset as a guy who's now playing with Kansas on his chest, a guy that grew up rooting for the Jayhawks just like yourself. What's it like once you throw that Kansas uniform on as a local kid?
Yeah, it means a ton to I think Kansas kids to play for KU and the university, and it's awesome to see that he wanted to come back here, being such a heralded transfer, and I know he's going to embrace it so much, and it means a lot to him to play in front of, his friends and family. And I'm excited to watch him play. And I don't think the stage or the moment is too big for him. And I know he's going to be, an excellent ambassador for the program.
Yeah, and he had an excellent first game showing. I know he's had a couple of games under his belt now in a Kansas uniform, but first official game where it counts, he showed up, looked great, big time shooter. Let's go back to your time as a senior, prepping for the upcoming year, knowing you're coming to Kansas, Gatorade National Player of the Year for the state. Walk me through what it was like once you knew for sure you were coming to Kansas and what you're starting to do to prepare yourself to do the same things that he's doing now, of playing in front of the hometown fans.
I think it's just setting yourself up to have the most success. When I was a freshman, a senior incoming as a freshman, I probably had a little bit different outlook, being that I was getting ready to play behind Mario Chalmers and Brandon Rush, Sharon Collins, some really good players that, I was just trying to find my way and help the team how I could. Where Zeke's going to be coming in here and expected to, be a big part of our program immediately. But at that same time, he's already had 3 years of college basketball. He's not going to be, no moment's going to be too big for him. And I'm really excited to see how he does, because, it's just going to be awesome for the community to rally around a guy that's one of their own.
Yeah. Outside of Zeke, who are the other guys that just really stand out the most to you on this roster this year?
Oh man, that's tough. We got so many different guys, and they all bring some really cool things to the program. I love Raquis's intensity when he's out there. He's one of those guys that he's not going to be bullied. He's not going to be afraid to play. So I'm really excited to watch him play. I mean, I could literally name all of our guys. AJ, he's commit. He's played at Wisconsin, Big Ten basketball. Probably going through a little bit of struggles, learning how to play with this coaching staff and all the new players. But again, he'll figure it out. Coach figures it out. He knows how to get these guys ready and prepared. And Shaquille Moore, he's been nicked up. I'm excited to watch him play. He's a freaky athlete, great defender. I think the fans are going to love Diggy. He's just got like an unbelievable charisma out there, and kind of Remy-esque, I guess you could say, if he comes off the bench or if he starts, just kind of that instant offense.
Yeah, he seems to be a spark plug right away. So Self has talked about over the years about the significance and the importance of having athletes. Mm-hmm. And we saw a couple years ago, postseason comments, hey, we got to figure out how to get faster, bigger, stronger. Roster didn't turn over a lot, but they came out the next year doing all that stuff. And this year, you've got a group of athletes. So I know your college days are what seems long behind you now, but everyone in Kansas Jayhawk lore knows Tyrel Reed is one of the most explosive athletes we saw in a Kansas uniform. So if you were still in your college days right now, or even I know you're still in great shape the way you take care of yourself, how's that vertical looking right now?
Vertical's probably looking okay. I don't know how fast I can move laterally, but vertically I might still be okay. It was funny. I do physical therapy for the team now, and so I get to work with all of our guys when they're hurt and be around them a lot during boot camp. I'm working with El Marco a lot right now, and I was standing next to El Marco at boot camp, and coach looked over. And he said, guys, we don't even have our most athletic player on the court right now. And afterwards, I go, El Marco, he was pointing at me, right?
Of course he was. I still remember one of my favorite memories of you was just watching the pregame warmups for the Final Four and just doing the dunk lines you guys were doing, because everybody's like, oh my gosh, Tyrel Reed's out here as a freshman just throwing it down in warmups out here. And then, of course, we saw that periodically throughout your career.
Yeah, I was unfortunately really good in warmups and needed to be better in the games at showing my athleticism. But no, we got some athletes this year. I'm excited to see that we can play really fast. We've got obviously a guy like Hunter who's extremely skilled that, we may have to play a certain way when he's out there, but then we can, sub in Flory and have a whole different look. So it'll be fun. I think we've just got lots of different matchups that we can play this year. And I don't think any team's going to really surprise us that we can't match up well with them.
Yeah.
Tyrel, I know you're working with the team closely. There's this weird question mark I have, and maybe it means nothing, but if El Marco wasn't hurt, if he wasn't sitting out the year, what kind of role do you think he would have had on this team as presently constructed? Because, the guy, yeah, he is a great athlete, and he saw some great minutes as a freshman, and we all expected him to take a huge jump this year. Mm-hmm. And then, unfortunately, we get the news, of course, about his injury, and it just sucks. Like, you never want to see that from from any player in general, but especially when you're a fan of a team like this. It's a huge blow. We were lucky to have all the incoming talent to kind of make up for that loss. But what kind of role do you think he would have had on the team this year if he was healthy?
I think it would have had a huge role. One thing that obviously a freaky athlete, I think he was figuring it out at the end of the year. And then also just having a year under your belt of being a player under Coach Self, you're going to understand the system. You're going to know your role. So it's just a huge bummer. And, getting to work with El Marco, there could not be a better kid out there. he has a great attitude every day coming in for rehab. He works his tail off. He's making great progress, and it's just one of those things. You never want to see anybody have a major injury, but for someone like El Marco, it's almost like, hey, I'm going to attack this head on. I'm going to take it day by day and week by week, and he's done that so far, and making great progress. So excited to see him in the coming seasons.
Yeah, and
He's going to
obviously
have a heck of a year next year.
hopefully. That's what I was going to ask you next is with that type of injury, and obviously you've seen him firsthand every day. One of the big questions, fans and people in our industry always ask, though, how is this guy going to look on the tail end of it once he gets back on the court? And the big question is, a guy with his athleticism, how's that burst? How's that jump in the strength in that knee? So from working with him, what is that process like going through rehab, and what do you expect to see from him physically once he works through all this and is able to get back to game shape? Is that explosiveness still there?
Well, we certainly hope so. With any major injury, there's never any guarantees. Anybody has surgery. We see it all the time. But currently he's making great progress and doing awesome. And the thing about certain injuries is the more time you have, the better you come back. Yeah. And thankfully he doesn't have to rush for this year. He's going to have a whole summer as well, hopefully, to continue to rehab and progress back onto the court, being with the guys. So I anticipate he's going to have a great recovery, and just obviously hoping that there's no major setbacks along the way. And currently he's doing awesome. His attitude's excellent, and he's a great teammate, so he's there for all his guys.
Yeah, I'm pumped to see him next year, because I think him and Raquise Pasper on the court at the same time. You've got two of the most explosive athletes on the court right next to each other. It'll be a lot of fun to see them run up and down. Let's talk a little bit about your time. So again, coming in freshman year, big transition from high school sports to Division I sports. We hear this with the Kansas City Chiefs a lot, that coming into an Andy Reid system, it is tough to learn. There's high expectations, and new guys don't always just click right away. We also know what the same thing goes for a Bill Self coach team. Bill Self is a hard coach. He's one of the best coach. He runs a tight ship, and it's not always quick to just grasp onto the way he wants you to play. So what was that like for you your freshman year? I know you didn't get a ton of minutes, but you actually saw good minutes as a freshman behind a group that had insanely high expectations coming off of a good year the year before. What was that transition like? How quickly were you able to grasp that? And then just in general, what is it like playing for a guy like Bill Self?
Yeah, I was fortunate coming in to be around a bunch of guys that have been in the system, so they were able to. It's almost you just fall in line. You have no choice. You either figure it out and see what other guys are doing and how they carry themselves, and how they get their minutes. So it was great. We're lucky this year to have some guys that have been in the system too. We've got, Hunter that's been here for a year. We've got, obviously Juan, KJ that have been here for the long haul. So most of those guys will, be great mentors for these young guys, and they'll figure it out quickly. You have to get some games under your belt too. There's, you can have all the practices and play against great players every day, but until you actually get out there and figure out what it's like when, the opposing team doesn't know all your plays. And that's always a fun thing. I hate it for our guys when you practice against each other, and you can practice so much longer now than you could when I was, is you get tired of playing each other. And finally having some new guys out there, some new teams to play, it's going to be fun to see how we figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Take me through Bill Self boot camp. Again, we hear that this is one of the hardest stretches of preseason conditioning you can find in college athletics. We always see the after pictures of how ripped all these guys look. And I know each year these athletes tend to get freakishly larger and more ripped than the year before, but what does a Bill Self boot camp look like? And how much pre-prep did you have to do to get ready just to be in the right shape enough to attempt to get through boot camp?
It's definitely difficult. I think if you probably asked any player, it's gotten easier as Coach Self has gone on. Just because.
Oh no.
No, I don't think there's any. I think everyone would agree with that. It's definitely gotten easier. It used to be harder, but some of that's probably just because as Coach Self gets older, he probably didn't have the same energy
Sure.
to
Probably gets tired of watching guys run up and down.
yeah, for sure. But no, certainly it's difficult, but it's mainly mental, and that's what coaching be. It's you're tired. Who's going to be the one that picks up the teammate and make sure that he gets through the next sprint? Who's going to have a bad attitude that day? Who's going to actually be able to fix that guy's attitude? So it's really just a way that we come together physically. I think, Coach always says you didn't come to Kansas and be a bad athlete. You're going to figure it out. You're going to get through it. But who's going to be the toughest? And he always wants the toughest team. And I think that's one of those couple weeks that helps set the table.
How often? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what are some of the elements of boot camp that you think would break the average, let's say like the average athlete? Because look, I'm not going to be in boot camp. I'll be honest. I'm no athlete myself. I would probably not survive. I might have a heart attack in front of Bill Self, and it would all be worth it. But like, what are some of the elements of boot camp that you think are the toughest for the average athlete?
Probably just the sheer volume. The thing. Yeah. It's not like it's just one hard day. It's multiple days in a row. So I think anybody could get through a couple days of it, but then when it gets to day 6 and day 7 and you still have practice, you still have to go to class, you still have strength and conditioning, all those things are still going on while you have boot camp. So it gets to be in some long days. These are like Coach says, you guys are world-class elite athletes. This is not going to be something you can't get through. I want to see who's the toughest.
Yeah. How often did you guys hear oh, you guys are soft, or oh, we can't guard anybody? Those are always the two cliches, we hear them throw out the most. How much did you hear that your 4 years?
A lot. A lot of it was probably directed at me, and it was probably warranted on certain times. But Coach, he certainly wants a tough team. He's not afraid to call everyone and anyone out, and that's what makes him a great coach. He treats everybody the same.
I was gonna say, what's his go-to? What was his go-to for you guys when somebody was, goofing around in practice to get you guys back on page?
I always loved when he said, "I'm about to blow a gasket, guys. I'm about to." That was his favorite thing when something was going wrong, and we knew when he brought that out, we better fix something pretty quickly.
Real quick. So we know Friday night we got a huge game coming up against North Carolina, top 10 matchup, one of the biggest home matchups in Allen Fieldhouse, not just in recent history but all time. They haven't been to Allen Fieldhouse for a game since 1960. We know all the deep connections, KU to Kansas. Roy Williams has said he's not going to come be in attendance because how could he sit here for both teams? That'd be hard. You've played in some big games in your time though, over your 4 years. What do you think your biggest Allen Fieldhouse game was? And then secondly, what was the toughest place or the loudest place to go play outside of Allen Fieldhouse?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've ever thought what my biggest matchup in the Fieldhouse was. I don't know if I had – I always think about like just the blue bloods. You've got Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, Indiana. I don't think we played any of those guys when I was playing at home.
You were there for that Texas loss, weren't you?
I was there for the Texas. Yeah, that was my only loss. That was a bummer. But game wise, we played UCLA in the Fieldhouse, but they weren't maybe the UCLA of my freshman year when they had Brooke and Kevin Love. They had kind of some down years there. We played Tennessee when they were excellent in the Fieldhouse. I'm trying to think if there are any other big games we had. Obviously, the Big 12 is just a gauntlet. So any Big 12 game you have in the Fieldhouse is always going to be, a hopping atmosphere. But I can't remember a time when we have, a team like North Carolina coming to the Fieldhouse so early.
Yeah.
It's
usually these deep Big 12 games, the Buddy Hield coming in, or the late season KU Kentucky matchup. It's not game 2 of the season a weekend.
Right. We haven't
Like,
even got to the Champions Classic, and we're going to play North Carolina. So it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. The guys are going to be, juiced for sure. And yeah, two storied programs, two Titans that, get to play each other when, neither team's going to have it all figured out right now. It's still so early, but I mean, as a college basketball fan, this is awesome.
Oh yeah.
This
I
is
was
what
telling this to the guys on the podcast last week. Like, I absolutely love that we have this gauntlet of a schedule, and
Yeah.
it's not just us. It's becoming a norm in college basketball now to get these big time marquee matchups. I mean, Baylor Gonzaga to basically kick things off this last weekend. These big time matchups at the beginning of the year when you're in the prime of football season, everyone's fighting for viewership. It's great for college basketball. The Champions Classics, the Maui Invitationals are great, but these standalone big time games that are not just played at a neutral site, they're home and away type atmospheres, I think is fantastic. But speaking of that, again, where would you say the toughest road environment you played in? Is it K-State? Is it Oklahoma State? Was it non-conference? Toughest road environment you had to play in?
That's a good question. I would say from a frustratingly, I never won at Oklahoma State. That was at the time that it was the only only place I didn't win at in my college career. But that was at the time you only played the South teams in the Big 12 every other year. So I only had 2 opportunities to play down there and win. So that was obviously tough just because we always struggled there. But I would certainly say it's the Super Bowl when KU comes to town playing K-State. So they get up for the game. It's an amazing arena to play in when it's packed. So I would have to give the nod to the K-State atmosphere. And, I think now that we don't play Missouri, K-State's definitely probably the one people circle every year.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next. Obviously, you were still here for both rivalries at the same time. What was the difference between K-State game day, game week, and Mizzou game day, game week?
Yeah, Mizzou, like the hatred ran like extremely deep in terms of like just going back years and years and years of us not liking one another. But it always felt that that their arena was too big for in my opinion, for their program at the time.
Yeah.
So it was never quite the same atmosphere. They had the Antlers and everybody, but it wasn't what I thought of being like a really tough college environment. They weren't right on top of you. K-State was excellent to play in because students are right there, and they always have their best game, right? It's their Super Bowl.
Yep.
So let's play the
Yep.
best stuff.
It just always seems like Mizzou, it's the off the court antics
Yeah,
between
exactly.
the fan base. Whereas K-State, it's both. I mean, K-State, even to this day, they still that is the game they get up for every single year, no matter what. Doesn't matter how good we are, how bad we are. It could be our down year. It is the most important game that they play all year. And I've never been to a game in Bramlage, and I would love to get over there for one because just as a college basketball fan, seeing an environment like that's not the field house, I think would be one, tough to be an opposing fan in, but just a lot of fun to watch and experience that. Because yeah, those games are always super intense. How about like any of the postseason? Obviously, you had the Final Four run in 2007, 2008, and get to be a part of that national championship squad. What were some of your favorite like big time venues like that weren't an away game, but they were neutral site court, something like that?
Yeah, it's always fun playing in the the football stadiums just because it's something that not many people will probably ever get to experience when you have 70,000 people around you playing a basketball game. So that's really cool. I was able to play in a few of those. One of the funny things I remember about playing in one of those arenas was it was my freshman year, so we were getting ready to play. It was when we played Villanova and Davidson up in Detroit, and that was at Ford Field, I think, where the Lions played. Coach T would always like have these funny things where like he'd say, "Oh, if Brandon makes 3 threes in a row during like our 5-minute shooting drill, I want one of the freshmen or the walk-ons to run to the top." And for some reason, I got picked. So I don't know. I think it was B. Rush. He made 5 threes in a row. So I had to literally in the middle of practice leave, run through the concourse, get to the very top of Ford Field. I think it took me like 15 minutes. When I got back, practice was like half over. But, it was interesting looking down at the court from that very top position. I wouldn't want to have those seats.
Oh yeah, those are for a basketball game. Those are beyond nosebleeds. You can't
Yeah.
really see what's going on. I have done that for a tournament game before. It's still fun to be there, but yeah, you can't see anything from up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
JB, I got a few more things for him. Is there anything else you wanna ask?
Man, I'm kind of curious from your perspective. Um, we kind of talked a little bit about K State versus Mizzou in that rivalry. When I first got to KU, it was at the tail end, right before Mizzou left for the SEC. So my first year at KU was the 2011-2012 year, and so that was the final year. For me, I grew up in St. Louis. I didn't or all my teen years were in St. Louis. I didn't even know KU existed. I didn't care about sports, and here I am, a co-host on a sports podcast. It's the weirdest thing. Different person back then, but when I came to KU, I saw this rivalry as almost 50-50. Maybe I'm wrong, but especially after Mizzou left, I feel like immediately we didn't really care, and we were all gung ho on K State is the enemy,
Yeah.
and we hate them, and Mizzou just became an afterthought. One of the things I'm always curious about players that have experienced that Mizzou rivalry to its fullest is does that rivalry deserve to be an afterthought, or is it still very strong and heated? Because I'm looking at K State as, from my perspective, that's the main rivalry, but I don't know. Maybe I've just missed out on a big part of history, and always curious what people think.
Yeah, I think it was a huge part of history for years and years, and it was one of the games that was circled on our schedule before the season started was playing Mizzou. Unfortunately, it's kind of one of those things with the landscape of college basketball, with them going to a different conference, and then now us not playing them very often, that a lot of these students who make the rivalry great have no idea what it used to be, so they don't have that maybe same feeling that players and fans before them had, which probably I don't know, I don't want to say taints the rivalry, but it makes it a little bit different. Whereas we've always played K-State, they're our in-state school, and they've done a really great job with their basketball program, making it a really good basketball team now. So every year it's a fun game to play, and hopefully we can continue to stay on top though.
Yeah, to me, K State was in like I would notice that a lot of KU fans would look at K State as the little brother. We hate on them and everything, but the weird thing was that when they're not playing us, there's a sect. There's like a section of KU fans that will root for K State just because they're an in-state school.
Sure.
That's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody has a house divided. It wouldn't work.
Doesn't compute in my brain. Okay, like you either have to pick a side, or I mean, you're not actually a fan. I mean, to me that never made sense. But I've always K-State, man, they just get under my skin.
Well, they were an afterthought for so long because their program was terrible. I mean, they were a football school and they had a terrible basketball team for a dozen years, and now they're worthy opponent every year. So I think at that time Mizzou wasn't like a great basketball school, but even during the Anderson years, Mike Anderson years, I mean, they had some solid teams, and of course a lot of that was right at the tail end of the rivalry until they went to the SEC. But K-State, I always felt up until the last maybe 6 years or so, we never took K-State as seriously as they took us, because it was like, you guys don't have any history to show for in this matchup. And they still don't from a basketball perspective. As a whole program, they have no national championships, and we've got more in one sport than they'll ever have in their entire program history. But yeah, I never felt like I took K-State as seriously as I did Mizzou at that time. Now, completely different story. Yeah, I think K-State's numero uno, and now I think Iowa State has cracked up there too. Not quite like what K-State is, but I think they're getting up there.
Like with K-State, they're like it doesn't matter who they're playing. They will play Sandstorm, and
And the
they're gonna chant,
FKU chants. Yep.
yeah, they're gonna chant FKU like over and over and over, and they can be playing any random D2 school, doesn't matter. Like they'll they are obsessed with us, and whereas
Yeah.
we save those chants for when we're actually playing K-State. Um, I can go on about the Starship Enterprise incident. If we know what we're talking about there, it was the stupid halftime show. It was like the first game of one of their football seasons, and they weren't even playing us, but the halftime show, the
Yeah, the
marching band
halftime,
depicted,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the marching band depicted a Starship Enterprise doing something
To the J.
not safe for work
Yeah.
to the Jayhawk, and it's things like that where you just look at K State, like how are they this vindictive, and how are they this awful, and how does someone up high at K State not stop that from happening?
Because they want to get under our skin. They want us to
They do.
spend 7 minutes talking on a podcast about them.
There
That's
you
not a
go.
Well,
K-State podcast. So,
congrats to K
yeah,
State, but
no more K-State talk. Let's get
no
to
more. No.
couple other things for you. Growing up, who was your favorite KU basketball player, or a couple guys that you watch? You're like, man, that's going to be me someday.
For sure, my favorite player growing up was Kirk Heinrich. Hands down, he was like, when I was a 7th, 8th grader, he was, the best thing at KU, and somebody I looked up to and wanted to be like.
Yeah, that duo of him and Nick Collison.
Yeah,
I still go back and watch games from their senior year every now and then because they do it for me. My mom always told me when I was a little kid it was Ryan Robertson first.
Yep.
And I finally a couple of weeks ago at a sports card show here in Lawrence got a Ryan Robertson warm-up jersey, and I should have hung it up behind me. That would have been great
Nice.
for this, but
Nice.
finally got one of those. And then it was Jock Vaughn, and then it was Kirk Heinrich, Nick Collison, and of course Aaron Miles. Who are some of the guards that you tried to mold your game after? It doesn't have to be KU specific, but just guards that you tried to play similar to.
That's a great question. I don't know if I ever was the type of player that was trying to mold my game after any specific player. Being a Kansan, Kirk Heinrich was always my favorite KU player that I watched, but I just was always a fan of great basketball players. I was lucky to grow up and catch the tail end of Jordan's career. Watch as I'm a high schooler, LeBron starting. I'm just a fan of greatness, and I was never going to mold my game after either of those guys, but I'm a basketball fan, and I just love watching good basketball. And, I just think we've been so spoiled, whether you're a LeBron fan or not, to have somebody play at that level for like 20 years is unheard of. And now, me being a physical therapist, somebody that can take care of their body and be as healthy as he has for so long, that's unreal.
It's impressive.
So
I think that's why he's still. We're not going to get into the GOAT debate.
yeah,
Here.
we
20
are.
years,
No,
man.
no,
20 years. That's impressive.
we don't
Yeah.
need to spend
Jordan's
15
great, but
minutes
Jordan
on it.
wasn't doing that for 20 years.
I just want to know, Tyrell, because Keegan, he's on the Jordan side. Me and another one of our co-hosts, Spencer, we're on the LeBron side. And I have my arguments. Like I said, we don't have to spend 15 minutes on it, but gun to your head, who are you picking? Who's the GOAT?
Man, gun to my head, I don't know. That's tough.
I know.
That's the other thing. I have a really hard time comparing like different different
Don't do the
decades,
eras.
different eras and decades.
It's important. The game is so different. Like you got to compare LeBron to Kobe first before you can compare LeBron to Jordan. And then
Greatest of all
Kobe
time.
to me is the ultimate middle ground because he overlapped with both, and he was Michael Jordan 2.0 for a while. But LeBron's just this freakish athlete we've rarely ever seen in basketball. So to do it for 20 years, you definitely got to give him his props. He's breaking every record book. But yeah, I still think those play styles are different. So I don't know how you can 1v1 compare them because even in a one-on-one setting, Jordan might be the best basketball player to ever step foot on the court, but LeBron might be the greatest athlete to ever play the game of basketball too. So in a one-on-one setting, who you're taking, I don't know. They have different strength. I will say this. I think Jordan is the number one most competitive basketball player we've ever seen. I'd say Kobe Bryant's number two. But LeBron, like all full circle total athlete, he might get the nod there. But how about some of your favorite team? Who's your favorite teammate to play with?
Oh, all of them, man. I was fortunate to have a great group.
Because you've got one of the best rosters in KU basketball history.
Yeah, I was lucky. I think I, played with 15 or 16 NBA players in my 4 years. So I had dang near a whole lottery class of just teammates. But I can't say I have a favorite teammate. I love playing with the Twins. I'm still extremely close with the likes of Mario Little and Tyshawn Taylor, Brady Morningstar, Connor Tehan. I'm so lucky that I get to be around Kansas basketball, so I'm able to stay around my teammates when they come back, when they bounce in for the summer, or when, heaven forbid, they need some rehab. They give me a call to help them out. But I was just fortunate to play with an unbelievable group of guys that were extremely fun to be around, and amazing basketball players, and even better teammates that they always were trying to give the praise elsewhere when they were the ones that deserved it.
So what's so special about that 2007 to 2009 stretch? Because there's like 5 of you from those teams that are either current coaches on the team or like yourself invest in the program. I mean, Chase Buford's back here with us now.
Yeah.
Brady's obviously been around for a while. Brendan Michard's been here for what seems like forever now. Jeremy Case, an assistant coach for a long time. What was so special about that group of you guys? Because you're all still here, or you all came back here.
That's a great question. I think we all, some of us are local guys, but I think all of us love basketball, and there's not a better place to be than Lawrence, Kansas, to be around great basketball.
That's right.
And it kind of always makes its way back here, whether, obviously the game kind of started here, and see the coaching tree just spread out. So I think a lot of us just love, the game of basketball. And for whatever reason, we kind of wanted to stay around here to be close to it.
Which, if you had to pick of the core group of you guys, if you were here, let's say Bill Self tomorrow comes out, makes a statement, says, hey, here's when I'm stepping away from the game. I have handpicked my successor, and it is one of my former players who's currently on staff. Which of you guys, now it could be, there's a lot of guys that would be in the running, but if you had to pick of one of you guys that's on around the team right now, who would you give that head coaching gig to?
I don't know. I think you're trying to get me killed by
because I think the fans say they feel like it's probably Jeremy Case because he's been in that role the longest. But hey, Chase Buford's got some success in the NBA G League, winning championships with Frank Mason up there.
Yeah, winning in the G League championships. He won 2 championships in Australia. He's obviously done a great job with his short, head coaching career. But I don't know. That's going to be a tough act to follow, whoever it is.
I don't know who whenever that day unfortunately comes. It'll be a sad day when it comes. Whoever does, I don't know how. And I think we all said the same thing when Roy Williams was leaving too. How on earth can somebody come in, fill those shoes, and then now we look 20 years later, and nothing against Roy Williams, tremendous coach, all-time great. But you feel pretty good with what's happened the last 20 years with Bill Self under the helm. So how anybody else could replicate or duplicate what he's done when it's their time, I don't know how. But yeah, I think we've been blessed as a KU fan base for the history of our program to have less than 10 coaches.
Yeah.
That's just unheard of. I mean, some programs go through 10 coaches in 10 years.
Yeah.
And we have just longevity, and it seems like each guy we get is just a little bit better than the last, and that's just, I think, fantastic to have. But anyway, last couple of things I have for you. 2012. Let's say Bill Self pulls you into the office freshman year and says, you know what, Tyrel, we got a lot of guards right here that are going to see more playing time than you. I think we're going to redshirt you. Fast forward 4 years later, your redshirt senior season, you're on the 2011-2012 national championship team. Are you enough of a difference to push over the top and take that Kentucky win away?
That's a funny question.
How would that game have gone differently had you also been on the court? Because I have asked myself that many times over the years, that one thing that team was missing was a guard with your type of skill set, because I think there was a lot on Tyshawn's plate that year and Elijah's, and I think having that one extra experienced guard in the program, I think would have pushed us over the top.
That's a interesting take. It's funny because Coach Self has said that. He's like, "Why didn't I redshirt you one year why didn't I redshirt you your freshman year?" And hindsight's 2020. I wouldn't trade my 4 years for anything. So I don't know if I would have liked to think I would have made a difference, but I guess we'll never know. But I don't know. I'm one of those people. Everyone asks, I hardly think. I try not to even think about the past, and then it's so much fun doing like these kind of podcasts where I actually do think about the past and how much fun I had. But that group in 11, 12, it was fun watching because they were all my teammates.
Yeah.
But you kind of wish, like that was my first year playing like professionally. You're like, I wish I was there to like get them over the edge, help them to get that last win. And I don't know if I would have helped. I would have tried though.
It was a tough matchup. Anthony Davis, Terrence Jones, Kid Gilchrist. I mean, I feel bad for T-Rob because that was just a matchup nightmare for him to play the game that we were used to seeing him do all year, and it was just tough. And we still almost got it. Not to bring back the sad memories, but Northwestern most disappointing, or Northern Iowa most disappointing loss.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's got to be between Northern Iowa and VCU. I mean, those were two pretty terrible losses.
Would you guys have ran the table if Northern Iowa didn't become Steph Curry before Steph was legit?
Again, a lot of what ifs. I'd love to think that we would have. I think that was probably the best top to bottom roster we might have had was that season. But just thinking just talent wise and where guys ended up, finishing their career at KU, we were pretty loaded there.
Yeah.
But that's the great part and the sad part about the NCAA tournament. That's why people love it.
The greatest thing.
I have the most love-hate relationship for it because I can literally say I've been to the top, and I've also thankfully never lost in the first round. But anytime you're a 1 seed and you get beat, it's an upset. So unfortunate to be a part of a couple of those, but very thankful to have won a national championship or have been part of one to experience those highs and lows.
Where's that ring right now? What do you do with it?
It's sitting in a closet over there.
Not even on display.
No, it's in a box.
Oh God.
I need to get like a little KU section here in my basement one of these days, but I need with a 5-year-old. I'm afraid he's gonna throw it in the toilet or something. So I keep it locked away till he gets a little bit older.
I'm surprised you don't have you've got all these other former KU players are still around doing their own podcasts and stuff, and you don't have your whole KU theme set up.
No, I know I need to. I'm really lacking in the KU game at my house.
Well, all right. You get to make up for it being up there basically anytime you want to. But last big thing I want to ask you on, one major change for college basketball that you did not get to experience is the whole NIL scene. And it's a drastically changing environment every single year. There's new rules. There's no rules. There's guys flipping conferences 5 times. There's guys playing 4 teams in 4 years. There's a lot of money being shifted around legally now. So if we could go back to your time at Kansas, or you were an active player now, what are the NIL deals you were looking to line up for yourself? And I guess let's go back to if NIL was around when you were playing, because there's a lot of different businesses now. What would be the first 3 things you're going, boom, sign me up, where's the check? Let me get my name on that.
It's funny because everyone that knows me personally, it's a terrible habit, but my favorite drink, I love Dr. Pepper. And the other day I saw like a Devin Neal cutout of like Dr. Pepper at Hy-Vee. I'm like, dang, Dev. I wish I could have been in your shoes like 15 years ago. That would probably be my number one, is give me a Dr. Pepper NIL so I could just have the fridge stocked all the
Just
time.
nonstop DP every day.
Yeah, it's a different time, man. It's
Mhm.
I'm happy for these guys. Everyone says like, are you the player that's super angry that you're missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars that these guys are getting that you would have gotten. And thankfully I'm not one that tries to really like think about the past too much and dwell on things that never would have been or couldn't have been. So yeah, it's a different day and age. I think we're all adapting and changing every year, and what we see now is not what it's going to be in 5 years, I don't think. And
Yeah.
I think we're just doing the best with what we can.
Yeah.
I like to think that you paved the way for players to even have any leverage in the
Yeah.
whole NIL situation. But that
Yeah.
I think it should come with some healthy pride.
Yeah. There you go.
That you played well and you paved the way. Gosh, well, now that you answered that question with Dr. Pepper, I'm thinking, is there any local business to Lawrence that you would sub that out for, or what's your go-to local to Lawrence business?
Man, I'd have been happy with anything. I'm not a picky dude. I'd have been stoked to have any NIL deal with anybody. Being a Kansan, I'll rep anybody. I'll still rep anybody if they want to give me an NIL deal at 35. I'm open to any and all offers now. But
Were you a Burrito King guy at all?
I've lived in Lawrence my entire for a long time now. I've never been to Burrito King. I
Me
hear
either.
Never was?
Been here 30 years, never been.
never been.
God.
I've never been. Not that I think it's. I just have never. I've never gone. I've eaten plenty of Pizza Shuttle though. That's like a
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
Yeah. What was your go-to? Like, I know you guys nowadays it's probably a lot more structured than even 15 years ago. What was like your go-to either pre-game meal or post-game victory meal?
I that's funny. Probably not a lot has changed. I think guys love simple things like Chipotle. That's like you can't really go wrong. And we had a lot of that when I was playing, and I still see it being catered.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, again, things are just so different now. They get food catered to them for all their meals, and they have what's called red card, where they get
Yep.
money where they can go eat during the day. So it's a great day to be a Division I college athlete at the
Absolutely.
and as a former athlete, I couldn't be happy for them. I really am. I'm glad that they can reap the benefits of all of their hard work, and I hope that they use this platform to set themselves up for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. JB, you got anything else for him?
Man, no, nothing about the past. But can we ask you what you think the team is doing to prepare for North Carolina? I mean, this is a big game early in the season. We touched on that earlier. Is there
Not
something
a
that
lot of
Bill
time in
Self?
between the first game and this one to do a lot. So
Yeah.
what is that prep like on a quick turnaround?
We have such a great coaching staff that it's pretty seamless between our games. We've got a great. We'll have a great scout on them. I'm not for sure what coach has the scout, but Coach Self is so big on do what we do, and we're going to be just fine. Don't worry about what everyone else does. We have our principles on defense, what we're supposed to do. But I think offensively, we have the guys that can be playing with anybody. But I think it's just about having that great energy that we had. Our first game coming out juiced, and we've got lots of guys this year, so we can throw lots of numbers and lots of different ways at you. So
Yeah.
as long as guys come out and play hard, I love our chances against anybody.
So
How about-
I was going to say, what's the starting lineup? Do you think it changes from game one?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'm one of those people, I could care less about that starting. When I was my senior year, I was fortunate. I started every game, but even my junior year, coming off the bench most of the time, sometimes I'd play more than a starter. So it doesn't matter. It's who's out there at the end and making plays, and coaches, he could care less. Me coming from a coach's son, I was always the thought of the best players are going to play. these coaches have a job, and no matter what, no one's playing favorites. If you're the best player, you're going to be out there. So
Yeah, the minutes always seem to shake out exactly how they're supposed to,
yep,
assuming everyone's healthy and
yep.
playing well. Last thing I got for you, I'm going to steal this from JB. He did this the last time we had a former player or player guest on. We've done this with every former player or current player we've had on. Looking at yourself now, going back 15 years, what piece of advice that you've learned in the last 15 years or during your 4 years at KU would you turn around and give to that freshman Tyrel Reed coming in for his first year?
It would probably be just, relax and don't be so hard on yourself. I think at times I was I think most of us are our own worst critic, but, I was pretty hard on myself at times. And I think if I would have just, enjoyed the process a bit more and understood that you're not going to be perfect and you can try all you want. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss shots. Things are going to happen, but you've put in the work. And it's important just to take things in stride and don't be so hard on yourself.
Absolutely. I love it.
Love it.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to hop on with us and go down a little bit of memory lane, talk about your time, talk about how the game goes now and being around the team and getting the insight you have. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Hopefully we can do this down the road sometime. And obviously any of you in Lawrence, if you find yourself in a rehab situation, I know a guy.
There you go.
I hear he's pretty good. I mean, again, I don't know how much you worked with my brother, but I remember you guys crossed paths when he was doing his I think it was his knee rehab or something.
Yeah,
years ago.
Everybody out there stay healthy. That's for sure. We're here if you need it. My best of health to everybody. So
absolutely. All right. Well, that's Tyrel Reed. Thank you for joining us. We'll let you get out of here and we'll finish up breaking down this game. But yeah, thanks for joining us, man. We'll catch you next time.
You got it.
Thanks, Tyrel.
Yep. See ya.
And that was Tyrel Reed, former KU basketball player. Tyrel Reed, really appreciate him coming on. Been looking forward to having him on for quite a while now. And it's always great to get a former player's perspective, not just on how things were during their time, but give us some connection to what's going on in the day-to-day now, especially with them being so close. So super grateful for that one. But JB, as we wrap up here, let's shift gears back to this North Carolina game for a minute. I don't know if you watched much of their first game. Wasn't very pretty. They let Elon hang around way too long. Ended up pulling it out. Not the North Carolina team from the national championship. Not the North Carolina team of last year. Armando Baycott's run out of his 10 years of college eligibility. Somehow RJ Davis still has eligibility, so he's still out there. They've got a good recruiting class. Hubie Davis looks to be a little bit better of a coach than maybe he didn't get credit for last year. But thoughts on this game? What do you think we need to see to start the season 2-0 and have a top 10 matchup win at home?
To be honest, I'm still terrified of this game. I think there's a lot of name value in North Carolina. I think it doesn't matter that, the roster is a little bit different than what we've seen in recent years. This team and this program is going to be a scary one. Now, I will say all that to be said, we've kind of had North Carolina's number.
That we have. Since Roy Williams left. No, I'm pretty sure North Carolina hasn't beat us. I didn't jot this down before we recorded, but I'm pretty sure we're at least 3-0, if not 4-0, since Bill Self's taken over.
Probably something around there, yeah. I feel like we have a good chance just on the premise of history repeating itself and us, beating North Carolina again. Now, I don't want to have the same experience from that national championship game because I don't want to see us have to try to crawl back from down 20 points. That scares me now. And I will also add, I'm still a little haunted from that exhibition game. I'm going to put that in air quotes for anyone that's not actually physically watching. Exhibition game versus Arkansas, because that game was truly played like an end of season, like winner gets the conference championship type of game. It was scary and we looked bad. And I know it was our first game, and I know since then we've kind of been able to regroup. We kicked Howard's butts. And here we are against another good team. It scares me once we face another good team, another power conference team like North Carolina, not even a blue blood in North Carolina. It's terrifying. I'm not looking forward to the stress level, but I do have some confidence that Bill Self knows how to beat a team like North Carolina that is very evident, of course, given our past few games.
So here, let me give you the rundown on this game.
Uh-oh.
Top 10 matchup.
Yep.
North Carolina has, like I said, we mentioned earlier, has not been to Allen Fieldhouse since 1960.
Wow.
They are a top 10 team. They did not look very good the other night. This team is a team of a bunch of guards, good guards, guys that can score, guys that can shoot, led by RJ Davis, a guy that could go for 30 any given night. They are not a very big team, don't have a lot of size, and they don't really play through their big guys a lot. So KU should have an advantage down low with Hunter and Flory. I think KU defensively has more to throw at RJ Davis than most teams do, especially if Shaquille Moore gets to play. I think we'll see 3 or 4 guys switch off on him. But all-time top 10 matchups inside Allen Fieldhouse since Bill Self's been our head coach. 24-4 in that time. 18 of the last 20 have been wins, and he's also had 8 straight victories in the Fieldhouse against a top 10 matchup. So from that perspective, this is a game that you feel really good that KU is going to come out on top. It's going to be a tight game, I think. The fan base obviously is going to be a big aspect of this. This is one of the biggest home games in Allen Fieldhouse history. You know, KU UConn last year was massive, and a lot of people said that's the loudest it's ever been. You know, we think back to that KU Kentucky game, the KU Oklahoma game from about 10 years ago now. We've had a lot of big time games at home, but this is certainly up there matchup wise, marquee name wise. It doesn't get any bigger than Kansas, North Carolina home game, not a neutral site, not a tournament game, just an actual regular season home game to get things going early. If you're trying to go to the game, yeah, so say if you're trying to go to the game, good luck. You might need to take out a second mortgage on your house to get tickets because, as expected, this game is going to be sold out. And this game also, the tickets, when I was looking the other day, just for the corner nosebleeds, you're going to spend about $280. Let's come down some. Let's come down some as we get closer. It'll do that. But yeah, if you find yourself lucky enough to go to the game, soak up every second of it. Go early, walk around the stadium. Enjoy the environment. If you've never been to a game at Allen Fieldhouse, first off, you need to go. It's one of the greatest sporting events ever, best venues. You feel the history around you as you walk around. And I think you're going to feel it there Friday night, as this is 2 historic programs. I'm going to say the 2 best college basketball programs in the history of college basketball. The deepest history. North Carolina basketball does not exist without Kansas basketball. We'll be real. Right. You'll see a lot of those shirts Friday night. So yeah, scouting report for me. Go big, dive in with the bigs. Let Hunter and Flory do their thing. Work through them. Let DeJuan be the defensive prowess that we saw in the national championship, where he slowed down Caleb Love and RJ Davis. Let's see the excitement of Diggy Coit and Zeke Mayo running up and down the court, getting shots up. Really, I want to see AJ Storr have a big impact in this game. Obviously, against Howard, nobody really got a ton of minutes, and AJ Storr barely played, it felt like, in the bigger picture. So he still hasn't had a lot of chance to do a lot to impress us just yet. So I think this is a big matchup for him. I think he matches up pretty well against North Carolina with his length and athleticism. So I'd like to see a big turnout from him. But if we see anything from a shooting perspective that we saw the other night, where KU's hitting double-digit threes, hitting 11 threes, sign me up to win night in and night out. Now, again, North Carolina is a better team than Howard, so you might not get as many open looks. But I think if we hone in on what we do best, rebound the basketball and play good defense, I don't see North Carolina coming in and beating us on our home court. So I have this as an easy KU victory. It'll be a fun one to watch. I haven't decided where I'm going to end up yet watching this game. I think Spencer's coming into town to watch it. That's what he said. So I might have to link up with him. But yeah, looking forward to it. Wish I was going to the game. If anybody has free tickets they want to give me, let me know. Or tickets you want to sell cheap, I'll buy them. But should be fun. But yeah, that'll wrap it up on this one. After North Carolina, then the gauntlet continues because it's Duke and Michigan State.
Gosh.
So we're just getting all the blue bloods this year. And that's, not including what we might see in Big 12 play with the gauntlet of the schedule we've talked about before. And then, of course, March Madness. So, yeah, we'll get into some more of that. We'll see how many game previews and recaps we can get out over the next couple of weeks. But if you stuck around for this whole one, I appreciate you taking the time to check us out. If you're new to the show, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button below. Over 1,000 subscribers, and we're so grateful for all of that support. Plenty of content every week for you: football, basketball, Chiefs, Royals, sports betting, weekly content as well. A lot of stuff here on the podcast. So make sure you are subscribing for all that future content. And of course, you can hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at KCSA Pod. Give us your thoughts on this North Carolina matchup. How excited are you for this big time battle of the Blue Bloods at home? I think it's going to be a fun game. And hey, if you've got any thoughts from our conversation with Tyrel Reed or any of the games that he played in his time here, maybe drop us in the comment section your favorite Tyrel Reed memory. So super grateful again for him joining us on this one. But yeah, JB, that's all I got. Anything else from you?
No, sir.
Well, let's get it done. Let's go get a big dub Friday night, and hopefully that can carry over into a KU football Iowa State upset. Maybe. Well, I know we might not cover that game this week, but that would be cool to play the spoiler since we couldn't do it last week. But yeah. Anyway, that'll wrap it up for this one. We appreciate you guys as always, and we will catch you in the next episode. Rock Chalk.
Rock Chalk.